One of the things I love about appellate law, and one of the things that I hope the students will love as well, is that as an appellate lawyer, your job is in 30 or 60 days to become the expert in your client's case and the facts and the law, and to turn around and translate that into something that's presentable in court, both on paper and orally. That means a lot of the essential skills of lawyering are the things that we rely on every day. And they're the things, too, that I believe students will find useful to them no matter what they end up doing later on. The other thing that we do that's enormously important is that we represent people who otherwise would be unrepresented. Part of our obligation as lawyers is to serve the community and make sure that the legal system is open to everyone. And that's one of the things that we'll do in the clinic, is provide access to those who would otherwise not have it. So what it means to be an appellate lawyer is to be a generalist. The job is to take whatever case is in front of you, learn the facts and learn the law better than anybody else, and then learn how to translate it into something that the courts are willing to hear. One of the things that ties it together, of course, is that we serve people who can't afford representation, so we'll be representing individual clients who wouldn't have lawyers but for us. But what their cases are could be almost anything. The Appellate Litigation Clinic is for third-year law students. There's a reason for that. It's not that you're not capable of doing work and doing quality work and learning in your second year, but that we want to go from the beginning of an appeal to the end. And the only way that we can do that with court schedules and all the briefing and preparing for oral argument and having the oral argument is to have a full year clinic. Now, as far as what students might want to have first, there aren't any prerequisites, but there are some courses that can be useful. Federal courts or appellate courts are very useful. Appellate advocacy is useful as well. If you haven't had those things, though, that's fine, because those are also the things that we'll be learning in the class. We'll start with wherever each student is and work from there to build your skills. So if you come in with a lot, you get that much further along. And if you come in with it all new, then that's fine too. So the type of work that students will do are all the steps that you need to handle an appeal. One of the most important is talking with the client, learning the client's story, because good lawyering is storytelling. Then students will spend a lot of time carefully reading the record and learning to read a record, make sense of what's properly before the Court of Appeals and what isn't, and then go through and think about how to craft that story into something that the court will hear, and also think about what legal arguments should be made and what shouldn't be made. One of the things that I want to do is to try to pair students with cases and issues that they're interested in, because you want to be able to get into the life of your client, really understand the issues, and be able to talk about it comfortably. And the more you understand and care about it, the better you do. Students will learn a lot of skills over the course of the year. Some of them are the things that are the most concrete, like how to write an effective brief, how to edit effectively, how to work with a team to produce the best product, how to stand up in court and selectively decide what you want to present that conveys the case in the most effective way. But a lot of other things go into that as well. One of them is learning to talk to, and most importantly, listen to the client, to learn the client's story. Talk to and listen to trial counsel if the client was represented below. Explain the law. Explain to your client and to co-counsel what the reasonable likelihood of success is and why, and where the problems are with the case, where we're strong and where we're not. One of the things that you find as an appellate lawyer is that your client, and very often your trial counsel, haven't stepped back to say, let's think about the big questions and how we translate them into something that the court will hear. So that's what we do. Managing expectations is enormously important. It's important for all lawyers. Learning to communicate with each other, read and edit and read a record carefully so that you really understand a case, all of that matters enormously. And in some ways, maybe the most important thing, and the thing that people often assume isn't part of cold, sterile appellate lawyering, is storytelling. One of the things that we do as lawyers and that students will do in the clinic is to figure out how to serve up the case to the court, how to talk about what happened, how to talk about the facts and explain the law in light of those facts in a way that's compelling, in a way that makes the court understand why you care, and that makes sure that your client understands that he or she was listened to and the client's interests are first. That's what it means to be a good lawyer. One of the things I'm most looking forward to in working with students is helping students figure out what they want to do with their careers. There are lots of incredibly interesting things you can do in the law and things that you can do with a law degree that aren't in the law. And by the way, the skills of appellate lawyering, written and oral communication, matter for all those things. So I really like to spend a lot of time with junior lawyers and with students, helping them figure out what in the world they might want to do with themselves and how to get there, and then start them on the process of doing that. Well, first of all, students can be appellate lawyers, but frankly, that's a small part of the profession. What's much more the case is that the skills that we learn, the practice that we do will be things that can apply directly to almost anything students will end up wanting to do with their careers. One of the most important things, though, is to learn the value of the law as a tool for public service. Maybe it's the pro bono that you do, maybe it's the paid work that you choose to do, but to make sure that you're finding something that is both rewarding to you and makes a difference for people who otherwise don't have access to the legal system or can't afford it. One of the great things about the skills that we learn in the appellate litigation clinic are that they apply to almost anything that you could end up doing with your career. Maybe you're going into private practice or in-house, or maybe you're going to the government, or maybe you're going to a nonprofit. Maybe you're doing regulatory work. Maybe you're doing policy work. In all of those areas, one of the most important things you have to know is communication, both the written side of that and the oral side of that. And that's what we do. And another of the most important things is to be able to figure out the issues that you want to address, what's important, and listening to your client to figure out what those things are, and then figuring out how to present them in a way that's compelling. That's what we'll do with almost anything that the students end up doing down the road.